Hi everyone, welcome to Papa's Workshop. Well, I'm taking a break today from making the fan art signs, and I wanted to be able to make my blast gates. This has been on my radar for quite a while. I wanted to be able to upgrade the central vacuum. So this is going to be the first in a series that I'm going to be doing where I'm doing the blast gates today. I'm going to be changing the ductwork in the shop, and I'm going to be adding some little micro switches to the blast gates so I'll be able to turn the machine on and off from the blast gate itself instead of having to run around the whole shop. So for today, doing the blast gates, let's go ahead and get started. Now, I started this project months and months ago, and the funny thing about it is I had actually started designing a very similar blast gate, and someone on the forum designed this one, and I had asked permission to be able to use it and was given the okay. Bad thing about it is it's been so long I cannot remember who was the original designer of this blast gate. So if you listen to this video, please give me a shout out because I'd like to be able to give you credit for it. Because this is a very efficient, very easy to do design, and it's much better than the one that I had in my shop currently. Now on this particular one, I have checked everything out, and I'm also using tabs, and I showed you how I can move those tabs around just by grabbing them and sliding them. I'm also using a bottom left corner for my XY home position. Now when I said I had checked everything out, I checked all my sizes to make sure that they would fit. And I wanted to check out this drill feature, and that works well too. The one thing that I did not check out was the feed rate. And if you look, there goes the bit. So what was the problem? The problem ended up being the feed rate was too fast and the depth of cut was too deep for what I needed to be able to do. That may work on someone else's machine. Obviously it did not work on my machine. That's one of the dangers when you share files. You really have to look at everything really carefully. And that's one item that I missed, and it caused a broken bit. Once I changed the bits, looked at the speeds, I did slow it down just a little bit. Everything else went perfect. Now I am using scraps for this project, so I had to move everything around to fit on the boards. Okay, I finished up these, sanded them just a little bit. And I wanted to be able to see now, will this fit into it? So let's see. Oh, that is perfect. Has just a little bit of resistance, but not much. There we go. That's perfect. So all I got to do is just be able to put this silicone around there, and that will seal it. There we go. I want to get the last one. Yep, that is perfect. I absolutely love this. This worked out really good. So the next thing to be able to do is to assemble this. I have these holes here, and I've got the pilot hole on this one to be able to set this up. That will go right there. This one will go on top. Just like that. And that'll form a nice tight seal, and that's what I'm looking for. The other thing that I wanted to point out to you, this circle here, which goes on the inside, actually fits this size. And the reason for that is that you want it to be right in line with this when it is open. So that's what you're looking for to be able to have a good seal. Now I wanted to show you up close. These actually work very well. Now at this point, you can see in here, I mean, there's really no gaps at all, so it's sealed very nicely. And when this opens up, you can see this inner ring right here where that other part of the plastic piece will come down and fit perfectly against that. And again, helping to form a seal to keep the air from escaping. Now I need to be able to cut out some more of the bases for this, and I had a smaller piece of wood. So I'm trying to adjust this to see how I can get this to fit on here. And just by being able to turn it a little bit and then slide it up into position, I actually can make it fit and thus be able to use a much smaller piece of wood. Now after looking at my size, I went back and measured my scrap, and I was able to adjust this a little bit wider and be able to get it to match exactly to the size of the wood, and guess what? It fits. So there it is now. It barely fits, but it does work. So this way, being able to utilize the scraps is really a plus. It's better than having to throw them into the trash can. So by being able to manipulate and rotate the different pattern pieces, I'm able to get 3 more of these carved on a piece of wood that's actually much smaller. So sometimes you just have to work with your design to see what works best. And that's what I did on this particular case. So it's not an idea of just throwing away a piece of wood just because you don't think it's going to fit. It's a good idea just to be able to try it. And the funny thing about it is, I took the actual ones on my workbench, laid them out first, and said, oh yes, this will fit. So let's go over to the computer and make it happen. So that's what I did. That's why it works. So keep that in mind when you're working in your shop. So now I'm going to go ahead and move the last and third piece into this piece of wood for the project. And this worked out really, really great. It made it where there's very, very little scrap. And that was the whole goal of this. Because this one piece of wood actually was in the trash can, and I pulled it out and started playing with it on the workbench to be able to see if I could get this layout to work. And it did. Okay, so there we go. I've got all 3 pieces situated rather tightly onto this scrap piece of wood that I pulled out of the trash can, and it's now ready to carve and become part of my shop. Now on today's project, I am using the screws to be able to hold down the wood on this, and I'm using the tabs. So again, I want to be able to show you different methods because it would get kind of boring if I only used one method. You've seen a number of my other videos where I use the glue and tape method, or I'll use the clamps. Well, today I wanted to be able to show you that I can use screws also into the project, and it holds very well. So it's all just a matter of deciding which way works best for you and your shop for the particular projects that you're doing. Main thing is, if you're using the screws, make sure that you have the screws well away from where the carving is going to take place. So here's the finished project, and you can see just how easy it comes apart. 1, because the tabs work very well, and 2, there's virtually no waste, and these pieces slip out very, very easily. So what I'm going to be able to do now is just hit it with a little bit of sandpaper, and it'll clean these edges up, and I'll be ready to go ahead and assemble them. So I actually like this method, and it works good because not only did I use the screws to hold it down, but I have the wasteboard, the auxiliary wasteboard in place to be able to protect my original wasteboard. Now one thing that I want to point out as far as safety, when you're cutting this MDF, which is medium density fiberboard, it does put off a lot of dust. So it's a very good idea to be able to use a dust mask. And the one that I have does filter out the particles. I also use the vacuum extensively, and I have a central air vacuum that is going also, that changes out the air in the shop every 3 or 4 minutes. Now this is a look at that central system. It is using an old furnace fan to be able to do it, and I do have it set for 3 speeds, and quite frankly I use the low and the medium speed most often. It does have the 2 filters in it. Now in the background you can actually hear that vacuum going. So it is filtering the air throughout the whole shop for any fine dust that happens to get in the air. And there's multiple filters in that to be able to pull that fine dust. So in between the cars, no, I don't wear the mask. But once the car begins, yes, the mask goes on. Even though you don't see it very often in the videos because I'm out of the view of the camera. But trust me, the dust mask is being used extensively. So now that the board's attached and I'm ready to be able to carve again, yeah, the dust mask goes on. So even though you're not seeing this all the time, and I know a few people have commented about that in the comment section, so I wanted to be able to show you that yes indeed, I do wear the dust mask when I'm working around the MDF, and for that matter, quite a few of the different types of wood that I use in the shop, because I do want to be able to keep the dust down as much as I can, and I also want to be able to protect my lungs, of course. Oh, and oh, by the way, I do like this new setup much better. So this is actually the third or fourth arrangement that I've had in the shop for the setup for the CNC machine. And so far, I like this setup the best. So again, don't be afraid to change things in your shop to be able to improve the efficiencies as well. Okay, I went ahead and started the carve now, and you can clearly see the auxiliary wasteboard that I have and the screws that hold down the project. And on this particular one, on that left-hand side, you can see that I'm actually using a clamp also. It's just a little bit too close to be able to take a chance on putting a screw there. Now I'm using an 1/8 inch straight bit, and you can see that it's actually carving quite clean. It takes very little cleanup to be able to get this ready to be able to assemble. The other thing I want to point out is I'm running about 60 inches a minute, and I did change the depth of cut because it was actually doing this on, I believe it was 3 passes, and I went ahead and changed that so it's just not quite as deep of a pass, and that will help. Now also I'm going to grab the vacuum cleaner and catch up this dust. By being able to keep the dust down, that helps everything in the shop. And this is something that I normally don't show in the videos. I usually try to keep it where I'm just showing the close-up views so you can actually see what's happening in the project. But for today's video, I wanted to give you a little bit more of a wide-angle view and a little bit more as far as what actually happens in the shop to be able to keep everything going. I know on occasion a few of you have made the comment that my shop is clean and organized, and for the most part, yes it is. Other parts of it, not so much. But as far as being able to keep the work area clean and safe, that's very important to be able to do. Now I'm sure some of you are going to ask, why not have the dust collection with the dust boot on the CNC machine? And so far, everything that I've read, there seems to be an awful lot of problems with that, with the extra weight on the machine itself, to it not being able to work quite efficiently enough. So I am thus not at this point interested in being able to spend the money for it. I am curious, and I will be experimenting with that at some point in the future, especially as I am adding the ductwork for the central vacuum center over to this area in the shop. I'm going to be doing some tests to see what I can do and maybe make it a little bit better. Who knows? But at this point, no dust collection is attached to the CNC machine. And I'm happy with the machine, how it works. And I'm not sure that I want to take a chance on causing problems that I'll have to end up fixing down the road. So if you have experience with using the dust boot, and the collection system on the CNC machine, leave me a comment. I'd like to be able to get a discussion going and get your input as to the likes, dislikes, the problems that you've had, or the successes that you've had. So please leave me a comment, and I want to be able to read them. And if I can, I'll share the experiences on future videos. And who knows, I may work with Inventables or some of the other companies out there and actually test the dust boot at some point in the future. Okay, I've taken a project off of the CNC machine now, and the best way to do this that I have found with this thin wood is just take a little utility knife, and I can just easily score and break the little tab that's in there. And the other thing that I do, there's a little bit of material that I can clean up right now while it's still attached with the utility knife, and it works out real well. And once I get that cut, then I just go ahead and pop that out. Now after cutting right along the edge of the line, that helps to clean it up and minimize the sanding. Just break away the tab and separate the different pieces. So that actually worked out very well. And then from there, just take the waste pieces, toss them into the trash can, and I'm all done. Now it's time to go ahead and insert the center section that pivots. And what I decided to do is use an 8/32 screw. These screws are about 2 inches long, or in some cases they were 1 3/4 inches long, because I had 2 different sizes. I had thought about several different size screws, and the 8/32 was what I settled on for 2 reasons. 1, I had them on hand, and 2, there's really no reason to go any larger. So they just slip in, and I put the nut on the other side, screw it into place. The one thing that I know that you guys will mention is I don't have any washers right now for the 8/32, so I'm going to have to pick some up at the store. So I just went ahead and temporarily screwed on the nuts at this point. But you can see it works very nice, very smooth, and I'm real happy with the way it turned out. The only thing that I didn't show cutting, there's a strip at the bottom that's 1 inch wide, and for the full length of the blast gate that helps hold it together also. Now I wanted to show you up close. These actually work very, very well. Now at this point, you can see in here, I mean, there's really no gaps at all, so it's sealed very nicely. And when this opens up, you can see this inner ring right here where that other part of the plastic piece will come down and fit perfectly against that. And again, helping to form a seal to keep the air from escaping. Now I'm not putting the micro switches on yet. That's going to be for another video. And I'm going to put some little blocks on here to be able to have this stop exactly where it needs to stop. Again, that will be in the next video. But for now, the gates are finished and they work very well. I'm very happy with how they're working. Now this is the first 3 that I've made, and I will probably need more as I expand the shop. So here's a look at the completed gates. Now these, of course, can be made without using the CNC machine. It's really pretty straightforward. But I have the CNC machine, and it does make the repetitive cuts very easy to be able to do. So stay tuned for the next videos as I add to this. Now this is the first 3 that I've made, and I'm sure as I expand the shop and expand the dust collection system and get the ductwork throughout the shop the way that I want it, I'm going to need more than 3. But this is to get us started and get everything working and tested, because this is a new venture. I have not used the micro switches before, but it's going to be so much nicer. So follow me on this journey on setting up the central vacuum center with the micro switches on these blast gates. Hi everyone, thank you for watching my video today. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell next to it so you'll be notified on the different videos that I upload. Also check out the videos over here to be able to stay up to date on the happenings in my shop. So again, thank you for watching my videos.